Imagine you spend the whole year filling a bucket with water, carrying it in cup by cup, and then you notice the bottom is dripping almost as fast as you pour. That is what donor loss feels like for most small charities, though it rarely shows up so plainly. You work hard to bring new supporters in, an appeal here, an event there, and all the while a quiet stream of last year's donors is slipping away, giving once and never again. This video is about the far cheaper, calmer alternative, which is simply keeping more of the donors you already have. It is called donor retention, and for a small nonprofit, it is one of the highest value habits you can build. One honest note before we begin, this channel is educational only, and nothing here is legal, tax, or fundraising compliance advice. I make no promises about how much you will raise, because no honest person can, and because keeping donors means holding people's personal information. Treat data protection as part of the job from the very start. Follow the privacy rules that apply where you operate, such as the PDPA in Singapore, and only keep and use the details people have actually agreed to share. The leaky bucket, picture your supporters as the water in that bucket. Every gift, every new sign-up pours a little more in. But the bucket has a hole, and the hole is the donors who give once and then drift away. If the hole is big enough, you can pour in new donors all year and the level never really rises because you lose them almost as fast as you find them. Fundraisers often obsess over the pouring, the new appeals and the new faces, and pay almost no attention to the hole. Retention is the unglamorous work of patching it. It will not feel dramatic. There is no launch and no big reveal. But a charity that keeps 60 out of every 100 donors instead of 30 is, in plain terms, twice as strong on the same amount of new giving. So before you plan your next campaign to bring people in, it is worth pausing on a quieter question. How many of the people who gave last year are still with you, and where exactly are they leaking out? Why keeping a donor costs less? Here is the part that makes retention worth your limited hours. Finding a brand new donor is expensive. You have to reach a stranger, earn their trust from nothing, explain who you are and why you matter, and overcome all the natural hesitation of a first gift. That takes advertising, or events, or a great deal of time, and most first gifts are small. A donor who has already given is a completely different story. They know you. They have already decided your cause is worth their money. They are far more likely to give again, often more generously, and they cost you almost nothing to reach because you already have their email and their permission to use it. I will not throw a precise multiplier at you because the real number depends on your cause and your country, and honest figures vary widely. But the direction is not in doubt. Keeping an existing donor is dramatically cheaper than winning a new one. For a small team with little money and less time, that single fact should reshape where your effort goes. Spend a good share of it not on chasing strangers, but on caring for the people who already said yes. Thank well and thank fast. So how do you keep them? It starts with the most basic thing in the world and the thing charities most often get wrong. Say thank you quickly and warmly. When someone gives, the clock starts. A thank you that arrives within a day or two, while the good feeling of giving is still fresh, tells the donor their gift landed and mattered. A receipt that turns up 3 weeks later, cold and automatic, tells them they are a line in a database. The first builds a relationship, the second quietly begins the goodbye. Your thanks do not need to be expensive or clever. A prompt, specific, human message beats a glossy one every time. Use the person's name, say what their particular gift makes possible, in plain and concrete terms. Where you can, add a genuinely personal touch, a short handwritten line, or for a larger gift, an actual phone call just to say thank you, with nothing else attached and no new ask. That last part matters. The first message after a gift should ask for nothing, it should only appreciate. Donors can feel the difference between being thanked and being softened up for the next request, and getting this one moment right does more for retention than almost anything else you can do. Show them what changed. The next thing donors need, and rarely get, is proof that their gift did something. People give because they want to change a small piece of the world, and then, most of the time, silence. No word on what happened. Into that silence creeps the quiet suspicion that the money vanished into overhead or was never really needed. And that suspicion is where lapsed donors are born. So report back, close the loop, tell them in concrete human terms what their support made possible. Not a spreadsheet of your annual accounts, but a specific picture. Because of supporters like you, this many children had a safe place after school this term, and here is what one afternoon there looks like. One real detail, one real face, shared with permission, will always move people more than a wall of statistics. And notice that this is not a fundraising ask. It is impact delivered freely with no hand held out. Do that 2 or 3 times a year. In between your appeals, and your donors come to see themselves as part of something that visibly works. That feeling that they are a partner and not just a wallet is what makes them give again next year without being chased. A simple stewardship calendar. All this thanking and reporting can feel like one more thing to remember. And things you have to remember on a busy week are the things that quietly do not happen. So turn it into a calendar. Stewardship simply means the ongoing care of a donor after they give. And the stewardship calendar is a light, repeatable plan for that care across the year. It does not need to be elaborate. A single page will do. Sketch out the year and mark a small number of touch points, most of which ask for nothing at all. A prompt thank you every time a gift comes in. An impact update in, say, the spring and the autumn, showing what has been achieved. A warm, personal note at a natural moment, perhaps the anniversary of a first gift, or a simple seasonal message. And yes, 1 or 2 honest asks, because you are allowed to invite people to give again. The point of writing it down is balance and rhythm. When you can see the whole year at once, you notice if every single message you send is a request for money. And you can space things so that care arrives far more often than the ask does. That ratio, generous contact and occasional asking, is the quiet engine of retentions. First-time and repeat donors are different. As your list grows, it helps to stop treating all donors as one undifferentiated crowd, because a first-time donor and a loyal repeat donor are in very different places, and the same message rarely fits both. Segmenting just means splitting your list into a few sensible groups so you can speak to each more appropriately. You do not need fancy software or dozens of categories. Even 2 groups is a real step forward. A first-time donor is fragile and precious. They have taken a chance on you, and whether they ever give again is often decided in the first few weeks by how you treat them. So give them a warm welcome, an extra clear thank you, and a little more explanation of who you are and what their support does, because they do not yet know you well. A repeat donor has already shown loyalty, and they should be recognized for it, thanked as the returning friend they are, and trusted with a bit more, a closer look inside the work, an invitation, a sense of being an insider rather than a stranger. Handle the personal data behind these groups carefully. Keep only what you genuinely need, and use it only in the way people agreed to when they shared it. Even this simple split, newcomers in one group and loyal givers in another, lets you welcome the new properly and honor the faithful, and both of those lift retention, winning back the ones who drifted. However well you do all of this, some donors will still fade. They gave last year and not this year, life moved on, and they slipped quietly out of the bucket. These are your lapsed donors, and here is the encouraging part. They are still far warmer than a total stranger because they once believed in you enough to give. Winning them back is usually easier and cheaper than finding someone entirely new, so they deserve a deliberate, gentle effort rather than being written off. A win-back is simply a short, kind attempt to re-engage someone who has stopped giving. The tone is everything. This is not a guilt trip, and it never should be. Reach out warmly, acknowledge honestly that you have not stayed in touch as well as you would have liked, remind them of the good their past support helped create, and show them something fresh that their return could make possible. Sometimes people lapse for reasons that have nothing to do with you: a tight ear, a simple oversight, an email that stopped arriving, and a warm, respectful nudge is all it takes to bring a good number of them home. And if someone would genuinely rather step away, let them go graciously and make it easy to opt out. Respecting that choice protects your reputation, and it is simply the decent thing to do. Quick recap. Let us bring it together. Picture the leaky bucket, and remember that keeping a donor is far cheaper than finding a new one, so a real share of your effort belongs on retention, not only on acquisition. Thank people quickly, warmly, and personally, and let that first message ask for nothing. Report back on the impact of their gift 2 or 3 times a year so they can see their support at work. Write a simple one-page stewardship calendar so that care happens on purpose and support outnumbers the asks. Segment your list even just into first-time and repeat donors and treat each group as who they really are, handling their data with care. And run a gentle, honest win-back for the people who have drifted while letting go graciously anyone who would rather leave. None of this is flashy and none of it needs a big budget. It only needs attention paid steadily to the supporters you already have. Donor retention is really just a slightly more organized version of an old truth, which is that people stay where they feel seen, thanked, and shown that they mattered. You cannot promise anyone a particular result, and you should never pretend to, but if you patch the leaks in your own bucket, the water you carry in each year finally starts to add up, and your charity grows steadier and stronger without you having to run any faster. If this way of thinking is useful to you, subscribe for more practical charity marketing you can actually use, and I will keep turning it into calm, doable steps, one video at a time.